Hey everyone, in this KRD Preseason Crash Course guide, I'll be covering all the important information when starting out with the game. KRD requires you to connect a valid Nexon account to a platform of your choice, as this is how they centralize their player base in a cross-play environment. So, players can make a Nexon account through the game, or manually prepare one beforehand after linking the relevant game accounts together. But be really careful if you're going to unlink your account, as it is in danger of losing all progress altogether. I've known some few people who had the same problem and had to contact support multiple times until they got their accounts back. On the gameplay, auto-steering is recommended for players who are completely new, but it is recommended to turn it off along with other driving aids once you're accustomed to the controls. Auto accelerate is up to players' preference, but controller and mobile users benefit more from this feature. But it really comes down to whether you want to hold down the button most of the time while playing this game, because you have to press forward pretty much the whole time, except for very few exceptions. Now, drift assist is recommended to be turned off as soon as when players are ready, since getting used to this feature can hamper your growth with speed mode. If you want to play speed mode properly, you need to turn this off. It is a very important thing to do. See, with this driving aid and display guide, you can turn them off once you feel ready, but just for this one, the auto instant boost for item mode, where after you get attacked by water flies or water bombs, you have to spam a specific button and you can't really pay attention to the instant boost that comes afterwards. So if you make it automatic, you can completely focus on escaping from the bubbles themselves. Now, in general, matchmaking latency option can really impact your queue times depending on where you live, with latency being an important gameplay aspect to pay attention to. See, each match has a very specific server that everyone is placed into after calculating the best location, and players' latency are based on how close they are to the said server. For example, a match with 5 American players and 3 Korean players will generally result in a server being located somewhere in America. The in-game indicator of everyone's latency values are displayed through the 3 colors next to the player names, the green being lower than 100 milliseconds, yellow between 100 to 200 milliseconds, and red over 200 milliseconds. High latency can impact gameplay elements by delaying your actions and affecting collisions with other players as well. See, in item mode, you will use or swap items slower with high latency, while in speed mode, there is a bit of a delay to obtain a boost after filling out your Nitro gauge. It even also affects your finish times that may directly impact your winning chances when you're right next to each other going into the finishing line. The reason why mine's unrestricted is because I live in Australia, and there's basically no one playing this game in my country with similar skill level as me, so I basically have to get matched with Americans and Asian people. Now, with graphics, the high graphical settings from here, the textures, it also turns on unique map objects, attractions and audio details that might be an extra distraction for some people who really want to play the game for a competitive reason. In audio, just make sure the in-game voice chat is turned on or off depending on your preference, because I believe by default it's turned on. And if you really don't want anyone to hear whatever you're saying through your mic, make sure it is off. Now with Karts, considering how the raw specs are supposed to be the same, the substantial differences of cards that players feel is likely contributed to the difference in physical size and drifting feel. While it's still a theory that me and others observed, the game tries very hard to translate visual cues of cards directly into how they feel to drift, meaning that cards that looks unstable like Ace can flip over and suffers a lack of stability, while cards like Titan will be monstrously feel safe to drive around with. This game also has presets, where you can save up to 4 slots per card, character, accessories, emotes, and emojis. It's the only way to quickly change your card and character in custom race, or just whenever you want to go back to your favorite characters and cards really quickly. Now, in shop, topping up the K coin is platform dependent. meaning you won't be able to see or use the cake going forth from the Nexon client PC Kartrider in Steam PC Kartrider. I would recommend you stick with one platform at a time so you don't get confused where your currency went. Some purchases made and rewards are sent here instead of going straight into your garage, so always check the mailbox. Most notably, all of your license rewards are going to your mailbox first before the garage. So if you're confused where everything went, check mailbox. Now with matchmaking for item and speed mode, both of them have hidden matchmaking rating system depending on your performance. You're going to be matched with players that has similar skill level the more you play. But I believe the first games that you play after you get the accounts made and finish tutorial, you're going to get matched with bots. Now both modes have options that you can choose from, where practice mode, if you turn it on, you're going to get matched with AI races. It's very handy when you don't want to play against real players when you're out of energy and don't really have the time and effort to spare. But you can still use it to clear your daily and weekly racing challenges. Now track difficulty is a very important thing. See, difficulty 1 maps are very flat, they're open wide, they're pretty boring, I would say. You will get bored of them after playing 1 or 2, 3 times. But difficulty 2 and 3 are much more interesting for both item and speed, but you can only unlock them by clearing licenses, which can be found here. You can unlock difficulty 2 tracks by clearing B2 license, difficulty 3 tracks by clearing V1, and difficulty 4 tracks by clearing L3, item mode. You see, you don't need to drift most of the time in item mode. The only times you do are often found in difficulty 3 tracks containing sharp U-turns, jumps, or shortcuts. I'm going to explain through all the items and their tricks so everyone has good idea on what to do with them. Missile. It has a range limit, but it's quite long. You can aim at most enemies unless they're like across the entire map away. And it can also attack opponents behind you if you know how to turn your cart around using drift. It's the only weapon where you have the choice to attack in front of you or behind you. Water Wisp. It has a limited range compared to the missile, but it has shorter hit animation and limited to opponents right on top of your place. So if you're 5th place and the opponent's at 4th place, it's only going to hit the 4th place and you have no way to hit 3rd, 2nd or 1st with a Water Wisp. Water Bomb. It allows team kills and its bubble lasts way longer than Water Fly. A well-placed Water Bomb can completely change the flow of the game. You really have to master the distance before using the Water Bomb to hit the enemies. Nitro. Commonly used for recovering fast after getting hit by a missile or Water Wisp or a Water Bomb. It can also be used for shortcuts or reversals at the end of the game to take the first place. Shield. Makes you invulnerable against all attacks for a certain period except for UFO. Now as soon as you hear a Water Wisp or a missile, you can use your shield because the shield lasts quite a long time, around 2 to 3 seconds. And as long as you see the graphic of the shield in place, you are invulnerable. Banana. It is particularly useful in placing them at shortcuts or tight roads, and you would only get them when you're 1st or 2nd place. UFO. Has a limited range and attacks almost instantly. It is wasted if your teammate is at 1st place, so if the 1st place and 2nd place are neck and neck to each other, you might want to wait until the opponent goes into 1st place before using the UFO. UFO EMP or Zap. Destroy the UFO that is being used on you or your teammate. You can tell your teammate is getting hit by a UFO from a camera shown on top right side, or if you can see the UFO coming into your ally and react much earlier than the camera. Barricade. Its number of barricades depends on how tight the road is. So if it's a really narrow road, it only places 1, and with really wide road, it only places 3. But I would recommend to use them in corners or really tight roads anyway, because people don't expect barricades coming at you in those kind of locations, and they almost always get hit by them. Magnet. Its speed gain is way more effective the longer you are in air because there's less friction with the ground. So if there's a jumping platform or a wobbly road, it's very effective to use Magnet in those areas. It is very often used to win games in the last few seconds, especially in wide roads or maps with a jump at the very last. Angel. Only available in duo or squad, makes you and your teammates invulnerable against all attacks for a certain period, except for UFO. Basically powered up version of Shield, but also applying to your teammates. It also lasts much longer than Shield, so it's one of the most powerful items in the game. Lightning. Angel is the only real countermeasure against this powerful offensive item, and if you hold multiple of these and the enemies don't have angels or shields, you're basically going to wipe them out. General advice for item mode is to use offensive items in up heals, jumps, or shortcuts to make opponents' recovery time more fatal, and try to save important items for later to create opportunities to win back the game. Commonly, Magnet, Lightning, and Angels are all key items that can really change the winners instantly. Speed mode. Speed mode in general plays very straightforward, where its gameplay experiences heavily depends on the track that you're driving in, which is why it's highly recommended to play with track difficulty of 3 or higher when playing speed mode. If it's rarity 1 or 2, where they're commonly flat, empty tracks, it's going to be very boring, so I would really highly recommend to get the licenses and queue up for rarity 3 or higher. There's also a team Nitro gauge that is very important for duo and squad modes, where it takes a proportional fraction of the Nitro charged by each teammate. For example, by yourself 50% of red Nitro gauge will be contributed into the blue one, in duo 25%, in squad around 12.5%. Once fully charged, it turns all your Nitro items that exist in your slots to blue Nitro that has triple the duration of boost time. This makes Nitro build up, management, and timing very important for duo and squad games due to blue Nitro's incredible potential. So even if there are people driving past you with red Nitro, it is sometimes more beneficial to wait until you have turned 2 of your red Nitros into 2 blue ones for very high potential boosts. There are many techniques in relation to speed mode as well that are not explained in the game very thoroughly. I highly recommend checking out Donut's YouTube channel. Here it is, I'm going to link it in the description. He explains thoroughly how drifting works in the game and teaches you techniques and groundworks to be better at speed mode. Victory condition. While solo celebrates victors with straightforward podium finishes, things are a little different with duo and squad. iTeam Duo and Squad only looks for whoever crossed the finish line first to decide on a victorious team, meaning that players has a choice to either bodyguard your teammates who are ahead or try to disrupt others. Just remember that if you retire, while you may be victorious, it'll still impact your RP and loot gains. Speed Duo and Squad tallies up all the scores gained by your team to decide the winners. Having same points between teams will give the win who placed higher through the finish line. Okay, so that's it for the Crash Course guide for preseason. I'm just going to end this video with a gameplay footage while showing you various tips that deserves to be mentioned.